Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if we can please start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let me adjust my technology here. Just want to go over our meeting guidelines and safety protocol. Purpose of this meeting is for the board to conduct board business. The meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. This meeting is being presented via Zoom. Not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. And agenda items will be listed on the agenda. In the case of an emergency, please exit the room using the exit closest to you. And next we'll go on to our vision and mission statement. Dr. Hoffman, would you like to read our vision and mission?
Sure. Our vision. Our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission. In connection with our community, the SCWEM School District empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives. Thank you.
And do want to acknowledge the land that we are on. The SCWEM School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While the S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments. The Lower Elwha tribe, located in Port Angeles, the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe, located in Sequim, and the Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe, located in Kingston. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaskan Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys. And with that, we are going to our special presentation, item 3.01. We have the Helen Haller Yearbook cover winner announcement.
I'm sorry.
And
It's okay.
we'll invite Tennille Bixby to give that presentation to us.
Sorry.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. For the last 3 years, HHEPTO has had a contest through local school where students can submit artwork for the yearbook. And every year we just make a special announcement to make a big hurrah for the winner of the yearbook contest. And this year, someone may already know who won, but we'd like to congratulate Susie Updike on her beautiful.
Wow.
Exactly, I think it was a perfect representation for the We Belong theme, the puzzle bringing everybody together.
Great. Okay, excellent. And that's going to bring us to 3.02. We have our mock trial club special presentation. And we're going to, at the podium.
At the podium? You want to do it at the podium?
If that works for y'all. Okay.
Okay, so we have a little PowerPoint prepared, and then we're going to run you through some of the things we learned that are law specific. And then we thought we'd play a fun little game where Grace and I give our opening statements for defense and also prosecution and see, based on that, if you think the defendant is guilty or not. So this is the mock trial club. We're not all here, but this was taken after state when we went to the Capitol. It was our first time at the Capitol for many of us, and it was great. We just walked through, saw some things.
So what is mock trial? I will hand this over to Layla to tell you about mock trial.
Mock trial is the first humanities club at Squim High School, which is amazing. It simulates a real trial, so we get a case every year, and then we study it for 5 months, and then we go to regionals and state or districts and state to compete in a trial simulation. Obviously, through this, you gain some knowledge of how our court systems work, and it prepares you for life outside of school. So this is our first year. We were amazed to find that our community was just so excited that we finally had a club like this. And we had lots of people come and help us to go to state our first year. The League of Women Voters, the Squim Police Department, Judge Basin, Port Townsend Mock Trial, and Assistant Attorney General Kirsten Glenn. So obviously we could not have done it without them, and we had a huge push in the community to just continue and help this club get on its feet.
All right, so what's next for us? So when we were talking with the League of Women Voters, we agreed to do a voter registration drive at Squim High School because youth voter turnout across the nation is already really low. And so this is our way to give back to the community, to try and give back and repay the huge amount of community support that we have been given. So we're gonna have a voter drive at Squim High School, which is just trying to get everyone registered to vote and informed about voting. Also, we're gonna go into the next season of mock trial. We're really excited. The case is gonna be about a cat. We want the cat to own a house. Some other people don't want the cat to own a house. So we're really looking forward to that.
What did we learn? This is the part where we're going to have some people present and talk about what cool stuff that we found out during the duration of this club. So yeah, hand it over to Amy.
So I was one of the prosecutors on our team, and I think one of the things that we learned was how to think quickly on our feet. A lot of the times, the opposing side would go up and they'd say something like that totally throws your case off, and you'd have to, a lot of the time we just like see the other attorneys like scribbling on a piece of paper as fast as possible, trying to come up with as many ideas as they could, how to like counter that or how to come back at it. And sometimes we had to do that while we were up and talking. Like we had to learn how to adapt to like not only the opposing side, but our judges and our witnesses. And that was something that is not only valuable in the court of law, but just in daily life.
And we also learned concrete things about law, such as rules of evidence and objections. And we're now going to do a little demonstration of that for you. So, and what I'm about to show for you is Georgia here is playing the defendant, Jace Crispin, and I will be asking and admitting evidence that are text messages from her to her son. You would often communicate with your son through text messages.
Yes, I would.
Would you recognize these text messages as shown to you today in court?
Yes, I would.
Permission to approach the witness?
You may.
I am now showing you what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this?
Yes, these are the text messages my son and I would often exchange.
Are these fair and accurate representation of the text messages?
Yes.
Your Honor, I offer what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, hearsay.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. There are two potential cases of hearsay within this exhibit. I will address both. The first are the statements of the defendant. These are not hearsay as they fall under the party admission guidelines. The second potential case of hearsay is from the defendant's son, Major Crispy. These statements are not hearsay because they are there for context to Ms. Crispy's statements and not admitted for the truth of the matter asserted.
Okay, I'm not as concerned about the party admission, but do you have a response as to the hearsay statements of Major Crispy?
They're an out-of-court document supplied for the truth of the matter, so I don't think there's an exception to the hearsay rule.
That's true. They're an out-of-court statement for the truth of the matter asserted.
Your Honor, as I stated previously, these statements of Major Crispy are only there to give context to the statements of the defendant and are not admitted for the truth of the matter asserted. Therefore, they are not hearsay.
Okay. The objection will be overruled.
Okay, another concrete part of the law that we learned is impeachment, and this is essentially just discrediting a witness. This usually happens on cross-examination, so I will now take you through that.
And I'm a different person now. I am no
She is now she is now a school psychologist. She is not the defendant. Miss Leitner, you met with Major Crispy on March 15th, 2022.
Yes, I did.
And he came into the school office ranting, so much so that the office staff thought that he was delusional.
I wouldn't say that. He seemed pretty ordinary. He was just, talking. He wasn't delusional.
You just stated that office staff did not think he was delusional.
I did.
Do you recall making a statement for this case?
I did.
And this statement was provided under oath
Yes, it was.
and is accurate to both your memory and knowledge.
Yes.
Would you recognize this statement if presented to you in court today?
Yes.
I would like to point your attention to page 23, line 39 through 40, and I will read that aloud. At first, office staff thought he was delusional, so they asked me to leave the scheduled meetings and talk to him. This was your statement.
Yes.
Thank you. And like that, she is discredited.
Okay. Finally, what we will be showing for you is our opening statements from the case, and we would appreciate it if you guys would listen and think, is the defendant guilty? So as the prosecution, I will go first. This is a case about criminal recklessness and negligence that cost Rama Faye, the victim, her life. On the night of July 23rd, 2022, the defendant's son, Major Crispy, made a SWAT call. To SWAT someone means to call in a false report to emergency services with the goal of getting armed police officers to be dispatched to a particular location. Because of this, an innocent girl became a perceived threat and was killed. Many could see that Major Crispy was a fraud. None knew that the defendant had lit the fuse and was watching it burn. But let's back up. Miss Bang, also known as the Fly, and Majora are friends since childhood. But in their senior year of high school, this changes. It starts with pranks in the video game they would play for hours every day. As these pranks go from virtual to real, the defendant constantly eggs on the rivalry, as Raiden Geralt, a friend of Majora's, will describe for you. Then, on March 15th, 2022, Majora goes to the school office, asking for help. They then talk to Cody Leitner, the school psychologist, who will tell you about the verbal violence brought on from Majora at the mere mention of asking their parental figure, the defendant, to get them professional help. She will also show you Majora's extremely violent drawings depicting the Fly, which I will remind you was the victim's screen name. A month later, the defendant meets with Ms. Leitner and is shown the drawings. They disregard it. After this, Ms. Leitner repeatedly attempts to contact the defendant, but every time, ring, 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 she's sent to voicemail. And she leaves many voicemails. Despite this, the defendant never contacts her again. But let's move on to June of 2022, when the defendant bought their child the device used in the swatting. This is the device, the Voticeptor 4100. This device is used to create fake but realistic phone numbers and generate voice masking distortions. The box of this device has many references to these abilities, going as far as to say, "SWAT your friends," in all capitals. Not only this, the defendant also caught Majora and their friend Lakota Belmont using the device for these very purposes. They disregarded it. They caught them making fake phone calls, going as far as to call in a false report about their neighbor. When they found them doing this, they told them to knock it off. Then they laughed and said, "Well, anyways, don't get caught." They laughed and they left. The defendant found them making the report and did nothing. No more than a month after this incident, Majora crisply makes another swatting call, only this time, someone dies. You will see the 911 or swatting call that Majora made, and you will hear from Claude Martinville, a certified forensic analyst, who will tell you that the defendant's voice was in the back of this call, meaning the defendant was in the room at the time the call was made. The defendant will swear they were not present. No matter whom you choose to believe, there's something else that you will hear. This is that the defendant fully believed a swatting call had been made. On the night of Baranathane's death, the defendant believed a false report had been called in and did nothing. Despite their belief, they still nothing. They believed their child had swatted someone and disregarded it, then bang, 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 an innocent girl is dead. You will hear from the on-scene commander from the night of Miss Thane's death, who will tell you about her investigation into the swatting, about her interview with the defendant, where she observed a lack of concern with the eerie calm. She will also tell you about split-second decisions. All the while, you will hear about repeated decisions from the defendant made over a course of over 10 months. Many could see that Majora crisply was a bomb. None knew that the defendant had lit the fuse and was watching it burn. To convict on reckless and negligent manslaughter, it must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant engaged in reckless or negligent conduct between the dates of September 1st, 2021 and July 24th, 2022, that these actions led to the death of Bernard Thane, and that all accused crimes occurred in the state of Washington. As the prosecution, my co-counsel and I have the burden of proving these allegations. At the end of this trial, my co-counsel will deliver the closing statement and ask you to hold the defendant accountable by delivering a verdict of guilty of first and second-degree manslaughter. Thank you.
Members of the jury, this case is an example of a failure to negotiate, a failure to coordinate, and a failure to cooperate, leading to the tragic death of a young girl. On the night of July 23rd, 2022, Bernard Thane was shot by a Star Mist Valley Police Department sniper on her own front porch. These actions were put into motion by the defendant's son, Majora Crisply. He made a SWAT call, which is a false report or a crank call that led to the death of Bernard Thane. You will hear the story of how a school system failed Majora Crisply and how a police system failed Bernard Thane. You will hear from Cody Leitner, the school psychologist who met with Majora and saw the signs of danger. And she did nothing. She failed to coordinate the correct intervention. She is not on trial today. You will hear from August Gates, the Star Mist Valley Police Department, an officer of the Star Mist Valley Police Department on the night of the incident. He will tell you that the SVPD failed to cooperate with other police departments, leaving the SWAT team woefully under-resourced. This led to, this meant that they were not able to come to a peaceful conclusion on the night of July 23rd, 2022. Gates also served 3 vital roles on the SWAT team the night of the incident. Not only was he on-scene commander, he was also sniper observer, which required him to be close to the sniper, about 75 feet away, and he was also hostage negotiator, which required him to be closer to the scene. He had 2 roles that in their very, very core elements are separate. And they were all being done by one person. Neither Gates, the SVPD, or the sniper who shot Lamar Thane are on trial today. You will hear from a professional in reviewing police actions, Dr. Arbus, who will testify to the SVPD's mishandling of the situation that led to the death of Lamar Thane. You also hear from Jace Crisply, the defendant, the only one on trial today. You'll hear that Jace Crisply was an involved parent. They were involved in their son's hobbies, and they were involved in their son's friends, and they were involved in their son's life, and certainly not a negligent parent. The prosecution mentioned Raiden Geralt, who was really just an acquaintance and an outsider looking in on the Crisply family. Lakota Belmont, however, was a close family friend and will tell you the true relationship between Jace and Majora. The prosecution will also claim that Jace was present during the SWAT call. However, they came to this conclusion through a forensic sound analyst, Claude Martinville, who resulted in a 40% uncertainty rate. 40%. Lastly, you'll hear from Jace, who may not be Parent of the Year, but they made sure Majora was in school and was being stimulated by positive hobbies. Failure to cooperate, failure to negotiate, and failure to coordinate. Let's not forget where the weight of this tragedy lies. The prosecution will not be able to meet their burden of proving this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Therefore, my co-counsel and I ask you to find Jace Crisply not guilty on all charges. Thank you.
So now that you have heard our openings, we're really curious, is Jace Crisply guilty? What do you think?
Vote.
Any prosecution people? Okay. How about raise your hand if he's guilty? Okay, the prosecution can't have that. Well, looks like the defense might have taken this one. Thank you so much for your time and for your appreciation.
Can you introduce Susan?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Thank you all for supporting the mock trial team along with Regan and Aaron Fox. And we could not have done this at all without Sarah Lynn Kozer. And I want to say, along with Pat, the kids at this school took this opportunity. They stood up and were lawyers and put themselves out. We all know that people don't want to do public speaking, right? It's number taxes and public speaking and debt. And these kids opened themselves up to Pat and Sarah Lynn and I and did this. They took second at districts. They qualified for state. And at the state tournament, they won the Downing Core Values Award, voted on by the other teams for the team that best exemplified professionalism, sportsmanship, and respect. These kids are kids in our community. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. All right. Moving on, 3.03 Interact Club. We have another special presentation. Excellent.
Introduce these strangers. Oh man, it was almost like I was just up here.
Some of you look familiar.
So we are Interact Club at the high school, and we've created a little presentation to talk about what we are and what we do. You can just click through to the about us or introduction. Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Ruby. Some of you may know me. We're here for Interact today, and Interact has been a club at the high school since 2010, which makes this our 13th year. We're chartered through the Sunrise Swim Rotary, which has been established since 1986. Rotary is a very big organization. They're international. You'll hear some of our interactions with Rotary in the community and also in the state, which has been very exciting. We share the same values and goals as the Rotary, although we execute them differently. We apply these to the local community, and we are chartered and recognized through the ASB, which means we are using school funds and student funds, and it impacts our student body as much as it impacts the swim community as a whole. So we have a very big impact overall.
So I'm going to quick introduce our officers here. So my name's Aiden Humphreys, and I'm the president. And as Ruby already introduced herself, but she is the vice president. We're missing a few of our officers, but Aaron Tolbert is our senior treasurer. Danica Chen and Julia Jack are our PR chairs. Carrie Olson is our secretary. Becca Van Dyken is our historian, and Amara is our junior treasurer. So Erin teaches her how to do her job. So next year she can do the same for the next junior treasurer. As we are a part of the Rotary, we do live to the Rotary standards, and something that we've all come to do at the beginning of every meeting is the four-way test. And if you've ever been to a Rotary meeting, you know that the four-way test is said at the beginning of every Rotary meeting. And much like that, Interact starts off our meetings with the four-way test. And this is things that we think, say, and do, things that we try to live by. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And this is something that we try to keep in mind anytime we go to do anything. Any one of our activities, we want to make sure that it is beneficial to everybody. And it's something that each of us strive to live by, not only in the club, but outside as well. One of the biggest projects every year is Walk for Water. Walk for Water is a fundraising event where we go around to local businesses and we ask for donations to help build a well in Africa. This year, we focused on Ghana, Africa, and our goal was $4,000. $4,200, my bad. And we exceeded that goal by $500, raising $4,700. And we, by ourselves, this little town of Squim, funded our own well to be built for the people in need in Ghana, Africa. And on top of that, we do a demonstrative march from the middle school all the way down to the river center, where we fill up buckets of water and then we walk all the way back, which totals to about 4 miles, to represent what many African women have to walk just to get water that is not clean to drink, and what we are hoping to prevent by building these wells. And as you can see, we had a very massive turnout by not only Interact members, but Rotary members, and maybe prospective future Rotary members, as you can tell by the little munchkin in the front.
Hi, my name is Catherine Gould. I'm a member of Interact Club. I'll talk to you about Boo Hunger. Boo Hunger is a project where we take paper bags and we have a list of imperishable food items like canned goods, boxed things that won't go bad fast, and we set them out at doors in designated areas, and we hope that people will fill them up, and we take the filled bags and we donate them to the food bank. We do that around October. That's why it's called Boo Hunger. And this was the first service project that I did with Squim High School. I did it in freshman or sophomore year, and this year, being a member of ASB, I was able to organize it and help interact like that. So yeah.
So this is probably one of the biggest things that has happened recently with the club. The Joe Rance Rotary Youth House, we were tasked by the Rotary to make a video trying to get George Clooney his attention because he's producing a movie about boys in the boat. Many of us have read it. And of course, Joe Rance, our hometown hero. And we made this TikTok video trying to not only get George Clooney's attention, but raise awareness about the situation that many youth are in currently, and the homelessness issue in Squim, especially regarding youth, and our goal to create a safe shelter for them to succeed in. And almost overnight, the video blew up. We had 200,000 views, and we had an email from a man named Grant, and all it said was, "I know George will do it." And it being what it is today, we didn't really trust a random email from somebody we'd never heard of before. So we sent it over to Pat with the Rotary, and sure enough, it is true. The premiere of Boys in the Boat will be done in the high school auditorium where Joe Rance first played the banjo, and it will be done right after the premiere in the UW Boathouse. And this is going to be a fundraiser for the youth house so that we can raise money to help purchase a shelter and maintain that shelter and hire workers to help the kids who are in need, because it is very important that these kids have the opportunities to succeed that they need, because without that, how far can you really go by yourself? And this caught the attention of many different news stations. I believe we were interviewed 5 different times. And yeah, King 5,
Como, Q13, Evening News, and then just by the UW Market.
Yeah, she remembers, I don't. But yeah, we had a great time doing all these interviews, and as a result of this, we had many visitors, and we were able to go on a field trip to the UW boat houses and tour those, which was a great experience. Speaking of visitors, so we had a member of one of the rowing teams come by and give us a book that had a history of UW rowing, as well as a plaque that had many different pictures of the Olympic team and their medals and like all sorts of crew UW pictures. And on top of that, we got to meet Judy Rance, who is the daughter of Joe Rance. It was a truly amazing opportunity to meet such a well-known person in our community.
One of our most frequented service events is one you might have seen if you are out and about holiday week, the day before holiday weekends, between 3 and 4. If you are out this Thursday or next Tuesday of Memorial Day weekend between the hours of 3 and 4 on Main Street, you might see us running around in our little yellow vests, holding flags, frantically making sure they don't touch the ground. So we follow standard flag protocol in which during holiday weekends, such as Memorial Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, many others, I think we do this upwards of 6 times a year, we deploy the flags before the holiday weekend. They stay up, and then we take them down. They're neatly and properly stored. We follow safety protocol. We have been called, the cops have been called on us like half a dozen times as we sit in the back of trucks to expedite the process. So hopefully as few amount of people see us putting these up. It's just a cute little mystery. But it's not. Interact does this. They're all done Main Street. And it's one of my favorite service events. It's one of everyone's favorite service events. And we have gotten very efficient at it. We can do it in about 30 minutes with 2 trucks and 3 people on each team. So we're pretty quick at it now. Very exciting.
So one thing that is pretty big at the high school is winter wishes. And basically students will send in requests of something that they want for Christmas, and the ASB will work as hard as they can to gift that to them. One thing that Interact wanted to do this year was give everybody something for the holidays, and we had our wonderful advisor, Mrs. Reichner, write a grant, and we were gifted like 700 Cliff Bars. It was a lot of Cliff Bars.
More than there were students at the assembly.
Yeah, and so we handed them out at the assembly, and
yeah, part of the role of Interact in ASB is because ASB follows certain state regulations, we're only allowed to give a certain amount, a certain dollar amount to each student. But that's just like the executive ASB council. Individual clubs can give, there's a lot less regulation around that since those clubs donate money. So by doing an event like this, we might not be, impacting individual students. Like last year, we bought a couple pairs of shoes to support students that might need that transition. So again, it goes by our Interact values, but impacting as many students as possible, beneficial to all concerned type thing, so that everyone can be impacted.
And one thing that all the leftover Cliff Bars we donated to the food bank.
Nice.
Okay. Sorry, do you want to talk about it? One thing that was really fun, we got 2 bus tables as waiters for the Dogtoberfest. So this happened in October, and we worked with WAG, who is an animal shelter that rescues dogs and yeah, I'd assume so. But this was specifically about dogs that they'd rescued, and it was a fairly long shift, if I remember right, but we got to spend a lot of time with great people and serve everybody, including the little dogs.
So this is another event we did. This is Rally in the Alley, and just correct me if I'm wrong. I think, so the cool thing about this one, the Interact got together, and we took a bunch of garbage from these people that could drop it off, and then we put them in these dumpsters, and we try and salvage all the things that were of value. And this one was pretty fun. We got to play some music, and we got snacks too. That's very important to me. Yeah, Interact Club as a whole, snacks is a great benefit. No, but this one was cool because you forget about the work you're doing, and we really just had fun. And we had a really great turnout. I think we had two full dumpsters and a couple solid hours worth of work, and all different types of people came out through the community. So that's pretty cool. And that's pretty important to me because it's less about the actual things that we're doing to me, and it's more about the relationships we're building and the relationships we're building with the community too. You got to see a lot of different types of people.
that good? Okay. Yeah, I gotta go. One of the events that was actually completely organized by one of our interactors was the blanket drive. Isabella Williams, who was the last queen of the irrigation court, for her platform, did a blanket drive. And basically what we did is we set up boxes or like drop-off zones where people could drop off blankets, and every couple days we would come and we would pick them up. I can't remember how many blankets that we had, but as you can tell from the photo, more than we could carry, which will all go to those in need. I think it was donated to the food bank to hand out to everybody who needs it. And it was great being able to know that we were providing something that people were going to need in the coming months.
Okay, so I'm Ashton Reckner, this is Tiffany Lamb, and we did the Christmas party. So basically what we did was we bussed tables for the senior citizens, and yeah, we served them food, and yeah. And we also watched the choir perform for the holidays, and yeah.
So one of the very impactful things that are in our future, about half of us remaining are seniors, so we won't see this implemented, but that's part of Interact's legacy. What you can see on the presentation is a mural, and in front of the mural is us. And currently, if you go through the high school, that mural is not there. That is because it is being taken down, it is being refurbished, it is being updated to include pictures of current Interact members, and especially an Interact member that has passed in the past year, who I think it's actually been over a year now, but she designed this, she put it up in chalk, and we're now planning to permanently memorialize it in paint and update it, and we're really hoping that it becomes a staple of Interact to come, and that we can fill all the letters with memories that would honor her and her legacy, to make sure that she is remembered for all of her impact in Interact.
The last thing that I want to say is that we're just so grateful for our advisors, Ms. Reichner and Colleen Robinson. We really couldn't be what we are without them, and all of the Rotary. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
In support of your presentation, I just would like to pass out to the board the announcements about the Rotary Youth Fund for the Joe Rance House, and let you take a look at that. Yes. And then we also have cards with a QR code if there's any interest in donations towards that fund. So I'll pass those down as well.
Also, the Rotary Youth House is taking donations right now, so yay! You guys feel free to donate, everyone. Please do. It's a really great cause.
All right. Thank you very much. Love that Cliff Bars idea too. It's a great idea. Those are way healthier than donuts. Yeah. All right, that's gonna bring us to, we have approval of our minutes, agenda, and consent agenda. Prior to approval of our agenda, though, we do have an addition that we need to add to our agenda, which is at the tail end of this meeting. We do need to add an executive session for the to review the performance of a public employee. Is there any objection to adding that on to the agenda prior to approval? Okay. And so hearing none, do we have any objection to the approval of our minutes, the approval of our agenda as amended, and the approval to our consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll consider those items approved. That's going to bring us to our public comments. Our board has adopted policy procedure 1400 and 1400P, meeting conduct, order of business, and quorum. This policy and procedure are available on the school district website. By adopting this policy, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and businesslike manner. This means that whether we are school directors, district staff, students, or members of the community, or some other guests, we must all follow the same standard of civility during school board meetings. Generally, the first item of business at every board meeting is the public comment period, which is something we value. This is an opportunity for visitors to be recognized and make brief comments. We have a sign-in sheet for those that are wishing to speak. Also, if you are attending virtually, if you would go ahead and we have the raise hand function, and we're going to try to capture all the names at once. So if you would like, go ahead and raise your hand and keep them raised for the next few minutes, and that'll allow Tracy a chance to capture your name, and then you can put your hand down until called. And each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes. The public comment period is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public. The board will not respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during public comment period, and there will be no back and forth dialogue. Please know that the board's silence is neutral. It is neither a signal of agreement nor disagreement with the speaker's remarks. Although the board will not engage in dialogue, the board chair might ask the speaker to a clarifying question. It is also possible that school district staff will contact the speaker at a later time to follow up on an issue raised during public comment period. Finally, please remember that your words have impact, and you, not the school district, are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers that it is possible that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy and laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure the legal effect of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what a respectful and inclusive community looks and sounds like. And in the interest of time, order, and respect to others, do want to remind folks it's not appropriate for complaints or charges about employees to be mentioned during public comment. These issues need to be addressed to the superintendent in writing. And I do have our public comments. And we do have one online public comment that we will hopefully get to. We're going to try to take these in the order in which they were signed up. So I believe that our first person signing up is, sorry, having to navigate 3 different clipboards here. That's 520, I think. 520. What's their name? Oh, Posner? Is that Heather Posner? No. First name starting with an H, it looks like. Oh, okay. All right. I do not believe that is somebody wishing for public comment. So it's going to bring us to Ashton Redmond. Okay. So 40, that's also 43. Tiffany Lamb? Okay. Uh, 45, Dean Christian? Finally got through to a name. Sorry that took a minute.
Good evening, I'm Dean Christian. former educator, local businessman, and father of 2 young girls that attend Holler Elementary. I found over the years that I learn every day from everyone around me. I learn from my daughters, my students, my employees, and especially my wife. If I'm steering us down the wrong path, or if I make a mistake and somebody says, whoa, I stop, I listen, and adjust. My job is to get us to the end, to reach a goal. It's a group effort. Sequim School Board, Superintendent Nichols, we the community are saying, whoa. Please stop, please listen, and adjust. We do not want this alignment. On a side note, we've been asking for a survey to show you that we as a community do not want this. And lo and behold, in my email today, I got a survey. You had the ability and the vehicle to do this all along. You must just wanted to sneak it through deliberately by not communicating to us. We're so upset at this. We're all running for school board, and we're going to make a change. I hope you hear just how serious we are. We don't want this. Thank you.
Let's see, David Updike.
I'll just cede my time to Laura.
Hello, I'm here to speak about the reconfiguration, even though at this point, it seems like everything has already been said. As you can see, the number of people showing up to protest at these meetings has gone down because people already feel that they've said and done everything there is to say and do. Maybe they've given up on changing the board's mind. I haven't given up yet, and I think there's a few people here, well, more than a few, who haven't given up either. So, should I talk again about how the reconfiguration will destabilize children who are just regaining their footing after COVID? Or about the large body of research showing that schools with small cohorts and large grade bands are beneficial to children? Or should I talk about how some parents will spend an extra 180 hours in the car next school year because of the additional distance they'll be transporting their kids to school? Or about kindergartners who, on top of 6.5 hours in school, will spend an extra 30 to 45 minutes on the bus each morning and afternoon, making for bus routes that are often well over an hour? Or should I complain that parents were first notified about the reconfiguration in an email attachment 3 weeks and 2 days, including spring break, before it was approved? Or should I point out that parents, students, and teachers, the people who will actually be participating in the plan, were never surveyed? Should I remind you that 70 elementary school educators formally requested that we delay or drop the plan? Or that the cost of the actual move is enough for the salary of 1 or 2 professionals who are desperately needed during this time of cost cutting and are desperately needed to help our children recover from COVID and help our schools run smoothly and safely? Or should I talk about the testimony from teachers who have gone through similar changes and said it was chaotic and negatively impacted their students' academic achievement? Or about how rushed the timetable is and the feedback from those who have been on the advisory groups, that they don't have enough time in the remaining weeks of the school year to finish planning? Or maybe we should ask again why Regan presented this as a cost savings measure and then later said that actually cost savings is achieved through reductions in force and that we will have 48 elementary school teachers whether or not we reconfigure the schools. Or should I bring up her insulting presentation that said it is a pro to have, quote, 3 years with families instead of 6 years with families, and that included research that went against her proposal? Or should I mention how Board Director Larry Jeffrey said he wanted to hold the superintendent accountable for how well this goes, but he has never stated how we will measure whether it's successful or how he will hold her accountable? Should I mention that no one on the board is willing to answer these questions? Or should I talk about the number of people who have shown up to protests, signed petitions, sent emails, met with board members privately, sent letters to the editor in the local paper, and more? Or about the 300 children who were kept home from school on April 17th in protest? 300 children. Or should I talk about the repeated, ignored requests to survey the parents? I don't think we need to talk about these things anymore because we all know that the school board has lost this debate. I've been talking to everyone about this. You guys have lost this debate. You've lost the community's trust. It's clear that the school board directors, Maren Halverson, Larry Jeffries, Patrice Johnson, and Michael Roca, do not take seriously the school board policy that says the district will, quote, strive to maintain effective two-way communication channels with the public. Such channels will enable the board and staff to provide a means for citizens to express their needs and expectations to the board, end quote. Nor do they seem to think they must follow the school board policy that says it's their role to, quote, advance the community's vision for its schools, end quote. Even board directors Maren Halverson and Michael Roca, who were not elected but were appointed by other board members, have not seemed interested or willing to take a survey of the parents or teachers. So what needs to be talked about now is elections. Across the Olympic Peninsula, last week was the filing week for school board directors. Hardly an incumbent across the peninsula faces a challenger except here in the Sequim School District. Notably, Eric Pickens does not have a challenger, but there are several people challenging those who voted in favor of the reconfiguration. I've spoken with some of them, and they say if they're elected, they will phase out the reconfiguration. So, board members, what are you going to do? Are you going to continue pretending that the opposition doesn't exist or is of an insignificant size? Are you going to push through this reconfiguration plan knowing there's a good chance that after all the work, commotion, controversy, and cost, next January we'll have a new board that immediately begins phasing it out? Will you waste more than $100,000 on a move that will just be undone, costing still more money? Or will you reconsider whether you want to win this battle at the cost of losing the war? After all, this shouldn't be a war. We should all be working together to make plans that all stakeholders feel good about. We should be on the same side. I want to be on your side. I want to fight together to help our kids recover from COVID and get through these budget shortfalls with the least amount of impact to student learning. In the end, majority opinion will prevail because these are public schools owned by the public and operated by the public through elected representatives. If this were a private institution, the board could pursue its own agenda and that would be that. It would be fine, but it's not a private institution. In the end, the public will have its way. The question is, are you going to continue this silly chapter of proving to our community once again that our school district leadership is dysfunctional? I implore you to take a moment to reflect, acknowledge what is happening here, and shelf this plan for a year until our community can either reject it or get behind it through the democratic process.
Next, we have, let's see, we're at 5. Alyssa?
Hi, my name is Alyssa Perky. I have 2 kids at Helen Haller. I think I can speak for most of this group tonight when I say that we're tired of our concerns being ignored and we're tired of our questions not being answered. So my question for you is this: why now? Why this particular group of students? These are the students who had to suffer through COVID shutdowns right when they were just learning how to be students. They have already been displaced so much and had to endure countless setbacks. This reconfiguration is a total disservice to them, to uproot their school community that the students, teachers, and parents have been working so hard to build back, when they have just barely had a chance to settle in and begin to understand what their education was supposed to feel like from the start. Older students currently are role models to younger students, Kindergartners are inspired to learn to read because of the fifth graders that patiently sit with them and show them how much their skills will grow to be one day. And the lasting bonds that teachers, paraeducators, and students build with one another are so important to developing their understanding of community. Why are you disrupting that? Community bonds of trust and cooperation were shaken to the core by the pandemic. Our children need stability right now. In their formative years, everything was turned upside down. School is just starting to feel normal and secure for these children. Please don't take that away from them. I believe it is highly unprofessional and disrespectful to not seek out the professional opinions of your frontline employees, to not ask for feedback from parents and caregivers. You were presented with good news at the last board meeting that there will not be layoffs of teachers and staff due to a significant number of resignations and retirements, in fact, more than necessary. But have you taken a moment to consider the fact that your forced plan to reconfigure our elementary schools is pushing staff members away? Because of the disrespect and lack of transparency from district leadership, they are seeking employment elsewhere. We will lose even more incredible professionals if you keep pushing so hard for this idea and timeline that is not supported by more than 70 of your elementary school staff, our beloved teachers and faculty. So again, I ask you, why now? Why this particular group of students? We all expect an answer. Thank you.
Okay. Maria Hibbard?
I can't compete with what Laura and Alyssa had to say. My name's Maria. I have 2 children in the Sequim School District. I live off of Woodcock Road here in Sequim. I am against this realignment, but above that, I'm very upset with our board members and superintendent. Listed on the school district website are the key functions of the board. Listed under responsible government of the board, it says, the board with participation by the community will envision the future of the school district's educational program and formulate goals. We, the community, have not been in participation. We have made it clear that we want to slow this down so we can participate and have this reconfiguration be successful. Now I'd like to read you something from the Peninsula Daily News from July of 2022. This was said by Ms. Nichols, our superintendent, and I quote, "A superintendent offers guidance and leadership rather than telling people what to do. They can be a team player and share ideas." This turned out to be a lie. We are being told what to do, and we will not sit on the sidelines and watch our children's education be compromised. I have one more quote to read to you. This is from Mr. Jeffries, just last month, and I quote, "My number one priority is student achievement and success. How we do that is the question I want to help you answer." Well, Mr. Jeffries, I have the answer to that question. Listen to the 70 teachers that have said they are against this. They are the ones who have to implement this plan, and they know best. Listen to the parents who have also clearly voiced that we want to slow this down and do it right. That is the key to student achievement and success. We all need to be on the same page. One last thing, when you make a mistake and you know you were wrong, as an adult, you learn to admit it and apologize and correct that mistake. I urge you to be adults and admit that you made a mistake and correct it. Consider a revote, and push and not push this through. This could be a successful plan if you have parents and teachers' willingness to participate. Right now, all you have is a town full of angry, blindsided parents and staff, and I don't see how this can go smoothly. These children are our future, and their education is not to be taken lightly. I beg you to do your job and put these children first. Thank you.
So we have Becky Mitchell.
My name is Becky Mitchell. I have 5 kids. I've had kids in swim school since 1998 when my oldest started developmental preschool. He's on the spectrum and he graduated from college 2 years ago and he works at the hospital. Anyway, so I have seen school boards come and go. I've seen lots of superintendents come and go. I've seen principals quit because of superintendent not feeling like he was backed. Teachers quit for the same reason. My comments are addressed to you guys, the school board. I think it's a dumb idea. I had 5 kids. I can tell you probably 100 times I'm glad I had all my kids in the same school, especially with little Ben. Anybody knew Ben? He really needed his big brothers. But you are an elected school board. And I thought, well, maybe I've got the whole school board thing wrong. So I Google it, and everywhere I'm finding on these, school board sites, websites, that the school board's here to represent me. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a parent, I live here in this community. You're not representing me because you're not listening to me. You're not listening to anybody. So it doesn't matter if this is the most fabulous idea that anyone's ever heard of. If everybody's against it, or you're not getting a consensus, everybody's for one way, you need to stop and you need to think, what's going on here? Maybe I, as a school board, should stop doing what I'm doing and listen to everybody else around me, which is what you were elected to do. It's like taxation without representation, the same thing. We've got this thing now that you're like politicians now. You just vote for what you think you're supposed to do. You're not here to push forward the superintendent. You don't work for her. You don't push forward what the principals want, whatever principal. You don't sit here and say, well, I'll vote for it if my kid gets to have special allowances. There should be no special allowances for anybody's kids, all or nothing. The whole thing I've seen, I lack so much respect and question the integrity of a lot of this that's going on. I feel we've been deliberately misled by the superintendent on what this is for. Are we gonna save money? No, it's gonna cost us money. Why don't we take the $100,000 this is gonna cost us and put it towards teacher salary, maybe hire some more paras. There's so many more reasons. I do not feel that as a community member, I'm being listened to. I don't feel that my kids have picked up on this. I still have a daughter who's a senior next year. She's picked up on this and she thinks it sucks. My son wrote a letter. He's in I have a lot of kids. One of them, he's studying elementary ed, and I've been talking to him, and because he's learning about this, and he goes, well, I really hope I don't ever get a district like that. He says that they're not feeling supported. I'm not feeling supportive. I have lost a lot of respect. So what I'm telling you is, I don't know if this is a groupthink thing where you just got this idea and now everybody's just going to go for it. But I want you to look at yourselves, and no matter what we tell our kids, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. You need to do what you know is right. And the right thing for a school board to do is to listen to what their constituents is saying and vote for them, not for ourselves. Thank you.
Tiffany?
I was gonna go a completely different route with this, but everybody's pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. So I'm going to say it the way that I know how. I was a kid in kindergarten. I got held back, but not held back. I got transferred to a completely different school than my sister, who is 3 years older than me. I grew up thinking we were gonna go to school together, we were gonna have fun, we were gonna do everything. We rode the bus together. I got transferred from that school to a different school on the bus. I had to be without my sister for a complete year, which was my only year in elementary school with her. And I had to be away from her. I cried every day, every day. My teacher held me every day because I was so upset. I am fighting for now this guy back here, Brian. He's got family going to Grey Wolf. His siblings don't want to be, or his kids don't want to be split up. Those kids need to stay together. Siblings need to stay together. They fight for each other. They stand up for each other. I am the last child of 5, and so I know. I had 3 older brothers, an older sister. We fought for each other. It didn't matter who was in the pecking order. My brother Chris got picked on a lot, so we'd fight for him. It didn't matter. I have a kid who is on IEP, and he is so much like my brother. And he would not have been able to withstand a reconfiguration like this. So I am fighting for you guys to really listen and understand that these kids are not known just by these teachers, but by their parents. We know our kids better. And if we're saying our kids are not going to do well, they're not going to do well. They're going to falter. They have faltered. COVID faltered them, held them back. These kids are not up to where they need to be. Please, please listen to these parents and these teachers. We are fighting for our kids. That's all that we're fighting for. We're not angry at you necessarily. We are fighting for them to succeed.
Is it Adrian? Adrian? Sorry, somebody else wrote over your name a little bit, so it's hard to tell.
So my name's Adrian. I'm sure most of you know who I am from all of the meetings that I've been attending and speaking out at, which is starting to feel like a waste of time as you continue to not listen to us. You stopped responding to our emails, stopped taking our calls. At the last board meeting, dozens of people spoke. You continued to add more public comment time. And at the end of it, all Superintendent Nichols had to say was, we are certainly aware people are curious about our progress, but ignored every concern that we raised, ignored every question, every email. Why have you not listened to more than the 70 teachers who have personally emailed you and called you, written a letter, signed, and then delivered to you and spoke at these meetings asking you to delay this? Why do you continue to act like you do not hear them? Why haven't you listened to the parents and teachers who continue to ask at every meeting and in emails and in phone calls to do a survey? I've received 2 surveys from the school district since the last board meeting. They can't be that hard to do. Why at the last board meeting did you not acknowledge that a single person spoke when it was more than an hour of public comment and just carry on talking about the reconfiguration? Every week you lose more trust in our community. Personally, you, Regan, you are losing the trust of teachers. Every week more teachers are resigning, retiring early, and they are saying that this is the reason they're leaving, is because you keep pushing this through and you're not listening. And you're putting all this on our teachers. We hear you, we're listening, but it seems as though you don't and you aren't. What does it mean that you value public comments? The definition of value means the regard that something is held to deserve, importance, worth, or usefulness of something. Why would you stand here and tell us that you value our comments, but continue to ignore us, not respond to anything that we say, stop responding to our emails? Why? And I hope that you address this at the end of public speaking.
We go to Pat McCauley, who I believe is online. No, okay. Let's see, Rich Johnson?
Did you say Rich Johnson?
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody knows me by that name. If I was to welcome you to my school bus, I would say, I'm Commander Johnson. I'm the Starfleet commander of the Golden Starship Minnie Mouse. And my mission is to get you to your homeworld safely. That's how the kids know me. That's how their parents know me, their grandparents, whatever guardians there are. When I get letters and notes from home, it's Commander Johnson. It's not Rich Johnson. So I'm sorry I couldn't quite hear that word. First, I want to thank Reagan for coming to the Transportation Department today to to talk with us, bus drivers. I spent 40 years in the publishing industry, and I've spent the last 7 years driving school bus for the Sequim district. And I recently told my wife, I said, honey, I finally found my career. I've never worked with better people. I've never been more personally touched by the work that I do for these kids. I get up every morning looking forward to spending time with these kids. I honestly, I can't understand why anybody wouldn't want to be a school bus driver. I have people say, you know, how do you do that? Well, all you have to do is love the kids. When I was in the military, I was in Special Forces. I wore a Green Beret. And I read a book recently by another military leader who, the title of his book was Leaders Eat Last. The leaders make sure that the troops get their food before the leaders eat. And I saw that kind of leadership when I was in the military. I also saw the kind of leadership where politicians back home were making up rules of engagement, never having been in the theater of action, never getting any dust on their boots. And those who were at the far end of those decisions were bearing the consequences of those decisions made by somebody a long ways away. They were not the kind of leaders who make sure that they eat last and that their troops eat first. That's the kind of leaders we need. But in order to do that, the leaders need to get dirt on their boots. I would wholeheartedly invite you to please ride a school bus in the afternoon. Spend some time where I spend my time, where my kids spend their time, my kiddos. Now, I want to speak against my own financial self-interest. Right now, when I go to the stadium lot in the afternoon, my kids get on the bus at 2:45. I have a 2-hour contract to drive. I drive to Diamond Point and Chicken Coop Road. I probably have the longest, am I out of time? Sorry, I probably have the longest route. When I get back, I have no time left. When this realignment goes through, it's going to add, you're going to have to pay me an extra probably 30, 45 minutes every single day. And I'm only one of like 28 drivers that it's going to impact. Still, I would speak against my own financial self-interest in increasing my wages for the kids. You don't know what's going on the bus. You haven't been there. You add, I can't tell you the number of times that 20 minutes into my ride.
Are you about done, Rick? Are you about done?
I'm about done.
Go, because we're over the 2 minutes, or we're over the 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm letting you just wrap it up, get those last couple words in.
Real quick, they pee their pants 20 minutes into the ride home. What are they going to do when you add 45 minutes to the ride? They throw up 45 minutes into the ride. What are they going to do? What are the phone calls from parents going to sound like when their kids come home with wet pants and I have to go back at the end of the day and hose out the bus from the vomit because you've added 45 minutes to my ride? Think of the kids. They're the ones who are paying the price for your decision.
Do want to mention we are at the 30-minute threshold. However, I'm going to say we have 3 additional speakers that have signed up.
And then did we extend the time? I move that we extend the time to allow 3 additional people to speak.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor of extending for the 3 additional speakers that have signed up, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are next going to Sandy.
I'm going to read from something.
I would like to stress the fact that this is so unfair to all these children when they are still adjusting after the pandemic. Another change is criminal to them and the teachers. I also heard it is a Head Start that the school wants to put in Gray Wolf. Is this true, a daycare? I'm not sure. It's a question. And I have one more thing, which may seem pretty petty to some, but did I hear correctly that a Helen Haller first grader has a choice to stay at Helen Haller, but a Gray Wolf third grader or fourth grader has to move? I mean, I don't understand that. And another rumor that I've heard is that there is a board member that has a first grader at Helen Haller. Is that true? I don't know if that's true, but I'm wondering, we've been begging for a survey from the parents. I haven't seen any emails. Maybe you guys don't have my email address. I don't know, but I haven't seen any emails, any voting or anything except for just you guys decided that this is what we're gonna do. And last time I heard has said the teachers have spoke, the parents are speaking, the kids are speaking, and nobody's listening. You guys. After this meeting, when will we hear? Have you listened to us? When will we hear that? Thank you.
Michelle Simmons.
Why, hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Simmons. I live in Lynn, and I am fairly new to this area, born in Washington. My sister, however, was a para for Helen Haller for quite a while until she passed on. And, one thing I want to let you know about my background is I come from a long line of educators. My grandmother was the first female dean of Weber Normal College, which turned into Weber State University. I have tons of, two superintendents, 4 principals, might have missed somebody, many school teachers, in like first cousins. And in my own family, I kind of chickened out and I went the L&D corporate route, but I like to think that I'm in education. But what I want to tell you is I appreciate what you do. I really do. I know it's hard. Having so many people as professors and those young educators I was talking about, the family discussions are around what's best for the kids. I have sat in family discussions where one of the superintendents was really having a lively discussion with the first grade teacher about budget cuts. I've watched where my county has not approved tax increases so that would go to our kids, and how sick I feel and how worried I am. And so I understand, secondhand, of course, I understand trying to get finances going and do the best for our kids. And so as I'm approaching you today, I'm not approaching you as, someone who's furious. I'm just sad. I'm so sad. What has happened is, as I look at school and people who did some great, speaking and made a lot of awesome points and very valid points. Me being in the corporate world and specifically tech L&D and having tech companies do hostile takeovers of other tech companies, that's what I'm feeling right now. It feels kind of like a hostile takeover. And I've been on the end of taking over another company, and I've watched as people have said, please listen to us. Are you going to ruin what we've got here? And sometimes it has ruined what they've had. And sometimes we were wrong. We went on the knowledge that we had, we researched some things, but what we didn't do is we didn't listen to the people in the front lines sometimes. We made mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes cost us dearly. I don't want a mistake to cost our children. I'm a grandma. That's who I've got in the schools right now. And being a grandma and trying to get a little guy coming out of COVID and coming, into a school system, having been homeless before school, actually didn't even really go to school. I want him to have the best situation. I want him to be able to have a good, stable situation. So I'm asking you, please, we're asking you to look at what could be a mistake. Respond to us, talk with us. Thank you.
Tony Ball? Oh, you didn't, but you did put the time down, so that was. And so I believe that is it. We are at the end of our public comment. Although it's not an agenda item, Superintendent Nichols, I do believe you're going to talk about the reconfiguration during your superintendent's report?
Yes, I do have an
Okay.
update.
All right. So if there's any questions that you find that are easily answered, that might have been posted, then I would encourage you to please cover those if you can. And I have to apologize, but I need to take a 3-minute recess, and because I'm chair, I think I can do that. We'll just 3 minutes. Reports? Oh. Okay. Oh, okay. We'll bring us back to order, and thank you. And we're going to go to our student board representative reports. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing good this evening. I want to say tonight that these past 2 months have been very busy and overwhelming for a lot of students, since it was a month of AP tests, sports league, and state. Our high school gym students had an art show at the high school gym where they got to have a chance to show their talents outside of class in operetta, which I know a lot of you had a chance to come and see. Our seniors had Decision Day Assembly, which was great because they had a chance to celebrate getting into the chosen colleges. And it was an example for all the juniors and other underclassmen to remind them of what is ahead. We had exact ASB elections and many more club activities. All these not only are getting students to work and to be proud of their accomplishment, but also make us all realize that the end of another year is coming up. There are only 5 weeks left of school, 5 exciting weeks that will mark the end of this chapter for freshmen to juniors, the beginning of a new chapter for the upcoming freshmen, and the last pages of this book for our seniors. On June 2nd, the seniors will have their senior ball, and on the 16th, their graduation day. On June 9th, our high school will have the campus day, which is a fun day for everyone. But until next month, all the students are planning and getting ready for these activities. The students can feel the end of this year coming as they start to work on their final tests and projects. I will update you on the other activities to come on the next board meeting. For today, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Desire. Do also want to mention that the board is interested in appointing a student who will be a junior next school year, and who will commit to serving a 2-year term. Student board representatives do attend bi-monthly evening school board meetings, and may offer a student advisory vote. So if you know someone who's going to be a junior next year, I might recommend that. We are accepting applications through Friday, this coming Friday, May 26th. So keep that in mind. And with that, we are going to our capital projects update from Winneha. And I believe we have Chris on with us virtually.
Yes.
Hi, Chris.
However, good evening. My camera is blocked from turning on.
See what we can do, maybe.
I mean, I'm perfectly happy not being visible, but I know it was much better to look everybody able to look me in the eye. Oh, there we go.
All right. All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me this evening. And it's been a little bit since I've had a chance to give an update, and I wanted to to talk tonight about what's going to be happening this summer. We have a lot of activity going on in the capital projects levy, and I wanted to kind of bring everybody up to speed on if everybody hasn't heard. First and foremost, actually, the first major activity is actually going to be starting on May 30th, a little bit ahead of schedule in coordination with Ned and OPA's staff. We will be starting installation of the fencing that'll be creating a perimeter around the school, starting around the 30th of May and going on until about the second week of June. That'll allow a little bit of security to be set up in there, and actually will also help with us with the summer work, in which we're going to be doing with the HVAC project, but I'll get into the HVAC project here in a little bit. Second project going to be coming up, a major item that everybody's going to be seeing is the gym floor for the Sequim High School will be replaced this summer. This will be the main gym. The old gym, if everybody is aware, was built originally in 1954, and it's the original flooring. So this has gone well past its manufacturer's lifetime and served its duty, and be happy to be replaced. The replacement for that should start roughly around the 28th of June, in which the contractor will be blocking off the far west side of the parking lot on the south side of Sequim High School, and starting to block off that area in order to set up their dumpsters and everything else for the demolition, in coordination with the activities for the summer with Craig and the facilities. They will be blocking off the main gym, but leaving access to the north hallway in the building if there is need to access the locker rooms and any of the facilities there. That repair and replacement will take through the entire summer, but by the end of the summer, we will have new flooring, new striping, a couple of new locations for volleyball nets to expand and bring the volleyball program and a floor setup to code, along with a little bit of a change in the striping program to match the current needs and how the system's been developed and the school activities have developed over the years. So all of that's looking good, is exciting, and hopefully that'll all be completed probably towards the end of middle of August. I should say not the end of August, the middle of August. So it'll be open well in time before school will start. Third thing we'll be working on is there'll be roofing activities this summer going on top of the auditorium. The flat roofing on top of the auditorium will be getting a repair, as well as the cafeteria and the gymnasium, the main and auxiliary gymnasiums on Sequim High School. The locker rooms will have some repair work done around all of the existing mechanical units. The wells and such are just at the age of their roofing replacement, and so we'll be choosing what is the best opportunity for the most gain in regards to the program, roofing to complete this summer, in which the girls' locker room, the women's locker room is actually starting to show some wear and starting to have some troubles. So that's on the list for this summer. So those will be all replaced probably starting in middle of July all the way through the beginning of the school year. On the electronic side, we are currently working at finalizing an upgrade to the wireless Wi-Fi program that's across all of Sequim High School and actually the district as a whole. And we'll start putting out to bid installation and replacement and upgrade of all of the cabling that's going to be run through all of the schools, so that we will have a better and more complete Wi-Fi coverage in all the facilities come the next school year. Right now, it looks like a number of devices actually isn't going to increase much, but I don't know if anybody knows anything about technology, but the cabling is an older technology, just doesn't have the bandwidth with the current demands of today's needs. So we'll be upgrading all the cabling on the interior of the schools, going through each of the schools one by one or in a separate programs and whatnot, and upgrading all the cabling and installing new wireless access points that will actually help increase the coverage. That everybody should see a lot better coverage starting next year. We are currently working on design and in figuring out what makes sense for a couple of other major programs on the low voltage front. One of them, of course, is security surveillance. That'll be continuing installation this summer and expanding. The hope is to get all of the campuses exteriors completed to a uniform system, a backbone, and at least a number of major interior systems, if not all of the systems, upgraded this summer. We're working with contractors and the design team to try to figure out exactly what that entails and make sure that that is viable without disrupting any of the summer programs. Access controls at each of the major schools, each of the schools, the front entries, we're going to start implementing an access controls program, which is to meet up to current access standards that are run across the state, which should change the way, basically give the front offices a better opportunity to a better ability to call people in and keep control of people entering these facilities, or be able to give access to them remotely, so they don't have to actually walk up to the door. Clocks will also be upgraded, but that's a minor item in each of the schools in order to bring them onto a more current digital platform. That's as we continue to upgrade the low voltage systems as part of the capital projects levy. Now, in regards to the site around Sequim High School, right now we have some currently planned upgrades to the parking lots on the south side in regards to ADA compliance. We'll be upgrading and bringing some of those to current codes we are looking at further upgrades across the campus for access to the various buildings and make sure that we are up to the current standards and expectations. The investigation for that is going on right now, and that will probably go through both this summer and next, just because of the sheer size of the district and the sheer size of the school. We'll give a further update on that once the complete scope of that is determined over the next few weeks to a month. Now, going on to the HVAC projects, we have design completed on the HVAC projects. They've been much awaited, and we have units on order. We're waiting for confirmation of delivery, but these will be extensive projects that will be a full and complete replacement of all the units on OPA and Sequim High School. When we originally planned these out, Sequim High School was going to be built over the course of multiple years, depending on need. And what it was is that certain units were working better than others, and we would go for the low hanging fruit and the most gain to the students and to the environment for learning. That's still the intended case, but the schedule for it will actually change a little bit, in the fact that we actually are looking at a potential way to accelerate the installation in order to actually have all of these have more units online during the school year. Once we understand what that timetable is, we'll be reporting that also as well to the community and to the board. And that's what we got going on this summer. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Grace. We appreciate you joining us this evening.
Not a problem.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. It's going to move us to 9.02. We have a finance report with Darlene.
Okay, I'll be giving you reports for the month of April. And first, let's pull up our enrollment report. And so you can see that for the month of May, our FTE for kindergarten through 12th grade is 2,493.98. So we're down 5.79 FTE from April to May. So one more month to put in there. And I would say overall, each month, just the decrease in enrollment has been very small, and just watching this so that we have budget numbers to put into the F203 into this month. So we'll go on to our fund balance report. These are our numbers for the month of April. So in the general fund, you can see that our ending fund balance right now is $3,912,778. And this is because it's April, and so our local property taxes payment was put into our treasurer's report.
And the same for capital projects, we have an ending fund balance of $3,831,352. Our debt service fund is at $72,042. ASB is at $464,595, and transportation vehicle fund is at $1,147,808. So those are our ending balances as of the month of April. I wanted to talk a little bit just on general fund, and when I did my budget status reports, I have the ability to just keep watching what our fund balances, our minimum fund balance, not that we keep for our policy, our board policy. And so our total balance is at 8%. And it just barely covers a payroll and some accounts payable for a month. So I did put aside, I was able to put aside $1,950,000 as of April because of our local levy dollars that have come in to put us at 4.2%, which is just at our, between the 4 to 6% for our minimum fund balance. So I'll keep changing it because now as we get closer to the end of our school year, really that minimum fund balance is for when we close our books at the end of August, and then to see where we're at. But now this ending fund balance will have to carry us through August, so it will go down a little bit. But this is our big deposit for this school year. Okay, let's go on to general fund activity report. So this is the same report that you see each month, and it's just a breakdown in a different way of our expenditure, our revenues and our expenditures. And then you can see over to the right the percentages of what we've received in revenue compared to what we budgeted, and then also the percentages of expenditures compared to what we've budgeted. And so you can see our expenditures are at 92.91% right now, and that's with our encumbered salaries and benefits through the end of August. And then we still have expenditures that are not encumbered as of yet. A lot of the buildings will start to do, they're ordering, so they have supplies for the start of school and some of those things. So there's still some expenditures that you will see on here. They'll start to finish spending out their building budget so they have materials they need to start the school year. I'm just going to also talk about the budget timeline. And the budget timeline is, I haven't changed too many things on it, but for the month of May, we've already done a draft budget presentation. It was just a rough draft that was presented last board meeting, and gone through some of the dates. And now we are finishing up the salary and benefit portion of the HR budget and making sure everything looks correct, and then it will be brought over to my fiscal side. And then the F203 is that template that is created by OSPI so that we can put in what we think we're going to have for enrollment. It has all the correct and approved funding model. Everything's put in that is correct. We've been able to play with the F203 and put in what we think is going to be given to us through the state and all the percentages and things, but this really is the accurate model, and it should be out by the end of this week. All of the models that we've been able to create, we have to have those saved by the 23rd, and then it will be up and running. So next month, you can see that we'll continue to work on that. At the board meeting, I'll do another draft of the presentation that I've already done, update, and then you can see then we start getting into where our policy and the laws around how we approve a budget for our school district have to go, and so we have to have it approved in August, required by law.
Any questions?
Question? Okay, thank you. All right, that's going to bring us to 10.01, superintendent report.
Okay, what I'd like to do is pull up the reconfiguration first, because that is the topic that is most relevant and at hand. So I'm going to show how we're giving updates. So we continue to use our reconfiguration tab to give information to the community. Our advisory groups do continue on Mondays, and we have kindergarten registration that is coming up on June 1st, and so we are preparing for that, along with a couple of other events, including Meet the Principals Nights that will be coming out. So we do want to make sure that as we go down to the reconfiguration timeline, people are aware of the dates and times of events that are coming. So we are going to be having Helen Holler's Meet the Principal Night tomorrow night, May 23rd, and that will be from 5:30 to 8:30. We have another coming up on May 31st at Howler, so that parents can have multiple dates to select from. At Gray Wolf, we do have one for incoming first and second grade on May 30th, because the next night on June 1st is going to be the kindergarten registration evening. So those are going to be separate events. Also, we want to let folks know that as we move into June, we will be having field days for the students to have both their own traditional field day and then move to have a field day that is a combined event as well. As we get into July and into August, just the first week of August, we will be having the moves that occur. The teachers being packed up for the reconfiguration will be completed by Friday, June 30th. And we are in process right now, which I'll show you in a few minutes, in making sure deliverables are coming to the teachers so that they have the information they need. In August, we are moving forward to have classrooms open by August 7th, so the teachers can have access for setup. And then we have September 5th is our first day of school. Okay. Further things that have been moving forward so that folks can hear about those include, I want to go to the K2, please. We have the tabs that people can open for each of the schools, and if you scroll down, we do put the events that are coming up at the top so people are aware of those. But then as the advisory groups complete activities, we are letting people know what we have completed or what is underway, or what we need to still be looking at. So we have had teacher room assignments, class list development has been in progress. Today, the staff did come together as staffs overall to look at class lists together. We do have building assignment maps, and we had our moving manual distributed as well. The moving supplies for teachers to access are due here on Wednesday. So we are going to be getting those out to folks, and they'll be delivered to each of the buildings. If you go to the 3.5 tab, you'll see the same information, except for different information about the nights or the events that are coming forth for families, and also for the field days. One thing we'd like to encourage tonight is that if folks would like to participate as volunteers for the field days, we need to get them to sign up in the volunteer portal. The volunteer portal is accessible through our website, and you need to go into the portal and sign up. We have review of the volunteer requests every single Monday. And because of Memorial Day, we have less Mondays available to us. So we'd like to promote that people get onto the portal as soon as possible and make sure that they have signed on so that they can have a review. And June 12th would be the drop dead date for volunteer signups. If people can do that prior to that date, that would be important. Regarding a couple of the questions that I heard tonight, one being why first graders got to stay at Holler and fourth grade not at Gray Wolf. The reason is that we made a decision after listening to feedback back several weeks ago that there was an interest that the first graders not have to make a transition if the families did not want them to, or the children did not want to, so we gave that option. As far as the fourth grade going to Howler, it's very important that one of our goals is that we have that cohort of fifth graders coming together so that as they enter middle school, they're entering together as a cohort that is familiar and has had similar experience. So that is why we made that decision. As far as the call for survey, we had a survey go out today. It is a comprehensive needs assessment survey that is required in our school district, and we do ask that people fill that out and give their commentary regarding how they do feel aspects of the school system are working or not. And certainly we've heard this evening that there's concern about aspects of how the school's running the reconfiguration, communication, and other programming that you may have comment on. I would say that the advisory groups, we are talking now about the K2 and 3-5 advisory groups having the option to have more time with teachers together for certain grade bands so that they're talking in their teams that are current. We're in the midst of making staffing decisions. We've had internal transfers that have made requests, and we've had some transfers fulfilled. We now have some requests and application for positions that have opened up, so we're in that process. And then we will also be looking further out to external candidates once we have all of our internal candidates placed. So that will be the pathway. I would say to you that we continue to discuss the things that we see that are coming up to the top, and I really would like to say that the moving group has done an exceptional job of finding all of the ways that we can address certain logistical needs and make sure that we are answering those calls. We still continue to get information from staff and buildings, and that group discusses it and will continue to do so. Transportation, as you heard today, I was at transportation and will be going back again to talk with them. Things that are coming up include, you heard some aspects about bus ride times, so we're working on those. We talked today at length about ways to have departures from, especially the Gray Wolf campus, be as efficient as possible so that we can save minutes. But what we talked mostly about was the Gray Wolf traffic configuration, and I have talked to Principal Lopez, and we're going to be looking at that along with the drivers. And that has been an issue for a while.
Yeah.
So it's come to the surface. I would say that the concerns, though it feels like people are not being heard because the decision has not changed, we have certainly taken down information, we take down commentary, we do discuss this at advisory groups. I know that it feels as though that's not happening for some, but I do want you to know that we are looking at the information that you're bringing and your concerns.
So next year, we can try to school, $30,000 for the school district. Just saying. You're in strap for cash, you're gonna have kids that are gonna just enroll from the school district.
We're all done with public comment, sir. Thanks.
Hopefully next time you ask, we actually ask. Yeah, only recent time.
Okay, I'm going to move on to,
Yeah.
okay. The school here at the high school has had the new doors put in, and I'm sure you saw those when you came through. It's quite a difference, and we're very pleased about that. So we'd like to thank our maintenance team for getting that together and getting those finished. I'd like to compliment the OPA flag ceremony that occurred earlier this, last week. That was quite an event, very well attended. We had representation from so many students in that dedication, and George is here tonight who spoke at that as well. So it was, I think, a memorable occasion, and the time capsule will be interesting for students coming along in years to come, decades from now. I've talked about the Meet the Principal evenings. I'm going to move on to our safety committee. Our safety committee talked about a student who participated with us who really wanted us to understand the impacts of ADA access in the high school specifically. And so we have evaluated that we do need to have a further consultation around ADA on this campus, and as Chris Marfori said, our other buildings too. We're going to start with this one because we know that there are students who are having needs and challenges right now, and so we have a firm that is able to come in who also did the ADA consulting for the PAC, the Performing Arts Center, and so forth. So that will be happening, as Chris said, quite rapidly, so we can address the concerns. We also debriefed the emergency communication that came out regarding the Port Angeles incident, and we had received a call about that. We did receive some parent concerns that the communication from our school district was not fast enough to them, and concerns that we had had, for instance, the paper put out a report before they even heard from the school. So we did debrief that. We keep timelines of all of the communication that we send out. We did have a glitch happen where we put the Skyward message out to families, and instead of it going out at 11:50, it went out at 12:50. And we think it's just an error in how we entered that, so we can make sure that we are able to communicate one right after the other. And we try to have a line where we have staff knowing first because they need as much information as possible. So we fully debrief that as safety committee. Policy committee will have items on the agenda for policy as we move forward. And then strategic plan update. We are coming to a close of phase 1, and we will be discussing the goals and then moving on for it to transition to staff participation in the coming year so that the staff can weigh in with their expertise on different ways that we have strategies and objectives built for the goals and competencies. And then finally, I'd like to compliment the Anastasia performance for operetta. It was really an incredible performance, very powerful. I think all of us who attended have commented to each other about what an experience it was. And it's just amazing when you bring our students together for the opportunities, what comes from it. So I think we're all fortunate to have that opportunity.
All right, any questions for Director Roca?
Yes, I do have one. There was public comment. Somebody had asked about the daycare that we're opening. Can you address that maybe misconception?
We are not intending to open a daycare. What has been discussed is that Washington State has a program called Transitional Kindergarten, and Transitional Kindergarten is an opportunity that allows you to bring in 4-year-olds so that you can present curriculum to them prior to their kindergarten year. In Washington State, you must apply for such programming and be approved for that. We have submitted an application, but even if it's received, it likely wouldn't be until a second semester start in January, and it would be limited to the number of students that the state would allow us to have programming for. So it is not a daycare and it is not Head Start.
And then would you mind just, I know that a couple parents had spoken how they felt like they didn't understand how to get more information. And one of the things that and the parents that I've been able to speak to on the phone, because my phone number is out there if anyone wants to know that they have questions or concerns, like some people were asking why. If you want to know the whys, I'd be happy to answer those in conversation, because just to address their specific questions. But how the strategic plan meetings tie into our budget and the direction of the district, so they can understand that there are opportunities for public to get that information and find out where this information kind of starts at. So maybe you can speak to a little bit about how strategic plan ties into the direction of the district.
Sure. So each school district has a strategic plan that lays out the multi-year pathway for how we have goal setting and then have objectives and action strategies to fulfill the goals. And our strategic plan that is current right now comes to a close in June. And so we have come together to look at what education should be about and what should it prioritize in the coming years for our school district related to what issues we see with education in our local area, what we see for performance from our students, and what the needs are for innovation, looking forward for how education should be changing over time to meet the needs that our students will encounter as they go on in their life, career, and so forth. So there is considerable opportunity for folks at strategic plan to come and weigh in on what they have for hopes for the future. We have described competencies that we hope all of our graduates will be departing our system having, and then also the different goal areas we want to prioritize for the next 5 years, so that we're moving our organization into a position to be ready for the next layer, whatever that is.
Thank you.
There were just a question. I appreciate the explanation around the communication issue when we were getting out the words with the, what do you call it, this SWAT or
swatting calls.
Swatting calls. And I was received or at first I saw actually a Facebook post that says check your email and check the district website. And I was, as a parent, didn't see that email first because I think it was part of that hour delay. But I appreciated that it gave me a second place to go, and which I did, and I was able to look on the website and I saw communication there. So I think having multiple spots is definitely beneficial. But I also wondered, what about using I think Port Angeles was using this as well with other communication channels. Have we used, for a situation like that, use that robocall feature? Is that something that we've considered? I'm just thinking in the spirit of multiple ways of getting out information, if that's something we've thought about.
Yes, we've debriefed that, and we do have the robocall feature, but what parents have asked for most immediately are texts. And the same feature that allows for the robocall also would allow for a text. And so based on the feedback that we've gotten, we are going to go with the text route. Okay. And we have IT already looking into how that will work. And we're going to actually have a test date. So we'll be putting out a date for the time that test will occur. So everyone's well aware it's just a test. And we'll see how that goes.
Okay. And I can imagine even with multiple channels, there's always some time where we're still gathering information, where maybe a social media site does occasionally get the jump on a public entity because we're still collecting information. I can imagine that does happen occasionally, yeah?
Two things happen. We certainly have news outlets that are finding out information quite rapidly, and Facebook also has people communicating. But there are also scanners that are monitored for law enforcement, and sometimes the scanner reports are getting out before school districts are pushing out information. And I just would want everyone to know that our obligation is to verify that information is accurate before we push it out. So I will say in this incident with Port Angeles, the very first call that I received had information that did not prove to be what
was really happening, nor what we ended up pushing out because of the accuracy. So we're going to be cautious about that, but make sure that our schools get the first line of information, because our administrators have to activate protocols, and then we will move to have efficient text information. When you receive the text, from most school districts work this way, you don't always know the why. So I'd want community members to know that you might receive something and not have a whole story behind it. That will come as we get more information and can outline it.
Great. Thank you. Other questions? Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to board business. Is that where we're on next? Yep. 11.01, we have an approval and first reading of policy 3141 and form 3141, non-resident students. Is there anything we want to, before we take a motion, is there something we need an introduction of this, or?
We're bringing this to you as a recommendation from Teaching and Learning. We wanted to be sure that we added the OSPI rescindment information, and we have a district-created form that we have been working on, and we wanted to be sure we brought that to you so that you could see the form and approve it.
So at this time, we're going to be, or I'd be happy to consider a motion to approve moving this policy on for a second reading.
I move we move policy 3141 and the form 3141 to the second reading.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion passes. We have 11.02, retiring the district reopening plan.
I move we retire 0560R, the district reopening plan.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just would share that WSSDA has retired this policy and district reopening plan requirement, and it was planned to sunset, so we're just bringing it to your attention.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have 11.03, the academic and student well-being plan. We have a motion on that one.
I move that we retire academic and student well-being plan 0561R.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion. Is going to bring us to, I think so. Okay. 11.04, we had just a discussion item for driver's education, and I'm gonna let Director Roca go ahead and lead us off.
Thank you. First off, thank you, parents. This and the board and the superintendent, thank you for putting this on the agenda. In my communication with the parents, a couple times, even though we were talking to elementary school, I talked to a couple of parents. It's like, oh, I got to go, or I can't make that time because I have a driver's education thing for my son I have to get to, or my daughter that I have to get to. And of having 3 children that have gone through the swim school and have driver's education program outside of the swim school, I understand some of the frustrations that parents have with only having one shop. So my idea of bringing this up to the board was saying, is there a way that we could maybe, is there interest to start looking at the possibility and the feasibility of bringing it into the swim school district to maybe help parents out with a burden that's really, really, I can tell you from firsthand experience, that can be really tough to manage for families.
I have a question about that. I was looking at this today and wondering about the Senate Bill 5583, whether that passed, because that was about driver's ed. And from what I could determine, it did in the legislature. And it was to require a driver's ed course for ages 18 to 22. But part of that is for OSPI to collaborate with the Department of Licensing to establish grant programs for schools to offer traffic safety. And so it seems to me that that would be a place to look with the OSPI for some funding.
Yeah.
For that.
Can you share a couple of things? I will say that I've spoken with several students who have advocated strongly that driver's ed be a consideration for SQUIM School District. They feel a few things. What they've represented to me is that it's very expensive. Secondly, that it is a challenge with scheduling, especially with all that our students are involved in, and we saw that tonight, club after club, right? And that there are some expectations of participation in driver's ed right now that is privately run that are challenging for students to meet. Just like if you don't get to the appointment on time, you might be charged, or you might not get to have your session. So they also have talked to me about the fact all of our students are competing for the same slots. So it becomes difficult. So I think that we certainly can be looking toward that bill as not only possible grant funds to consider starting it, but I'd back us up a bit that we should get the architecture of what a driver's ed program can look like in this day and age. I'm sure many of us remember it in our high schools, but I'll assure you it won't be the same today as with everything. And I would come back to you with an outline of what it will take for us to continue to have this conversation and what I recommend we do next for steps, including talking with our students.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. I mean, I don't know what all the, what all the current constraints are of insurance and other, other constraints, but if it's a possibility, I'm sure it would be that service to our students and our families if it's something that looks like it could be possible. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. I think we have a staff member that seems like it's something super pertinent.
Well,
If you
like kind of like a staff parent thing. So the biggest thing that as a parent, when your kid is needing to be over there, you can't get there. What is a really neat idea that's kind of a medium ground is working with the company and maybe having them have their location at our school somewhere. So that way the kids are actually dropped off and picked up here, and it makes it a little bit more easy. We can kind of work with them for like scheduling and stuff.
So if you want to maybe even touch base with Regan after the meeting and share ideas, we could definitely look at ideas. So yeah, for sure. Okay. Anything else?
No, I'd just say that is the reason for this discussion. It's just that, what are our options? Is there a way that we can help families with this? As somebody who's been through it, like I said, with 3 of my children, I found it challenging with each one of them. And I have, a wife who works out of the home, and it was still challenging. So I definitely understand what parents are facing. I think anything we can do to alleviate that, even outside of the box, I think would be helpful. We should try to find some way to help to alleviate some of that strain on families.
All right. So we're gonna look into that and come back to this future meeting with details. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this up, Director Rowe.
That may be one of those bills that check, may be a good idea, but they may not have funded it.
Yeah, that could have been.
And
I was trying to track
we need
it.
to find out maybe the history of it, like you mentioned. Driver's ed was part of physical education. And it was just something we did. And for whatever reason, that's totally changed now to the private companies, mostly private contractors. So there's probably a reason, rationale for that. So
If larger districts still carry the program,
Well,
I imagine
larger
that's
districts.
not coincidental, but
Yeah.
just a hunch.
For the money.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go ahead and go on to 11.05, WASDA legislative proposal. This is in reference to the first proposal that we considered back in April, and it was reviewed by the WASDA Legislative Committee. And what they do is they kind of review all of the proposals, see what makes sense, see what doesn't. They then would either give it a recommendation of pass or recommendation of do not pass, based on, if it makes sense, a lot of different factors. That does not mean that it can't be heard by the body when they go to make the decision in September. However, a recommendation of do pass does carry a lot of weight from the legislative committee. They have made so first thing, the other three, I talked to Marissa with WASDA today. She said the other three proposals that the Swim School District passed were all voted by the Leg Committee, recommendation of do pass. So 3 of the 4 sound solid. So again, it'll be wait until September to make that final decision for those to be adopted. However, there was one recommendation that I'm bringing to you this evening, which is on the item that about the initiate and supporting legislation that improves the regionalization funding model and staff mix. And the second bullet, it was recommended that that it would not be appropriate to have that second bullet because it speaks to identify and build strategic partnerships with allies and organizations. We're also lobbying in support of equitable regionalization and staff mix funding based on the committee's recommendations. So that is more operational in nature from WASDA's perspective. So it absolutely does not mean that they won't do exactly that. In fact, that's a practice of theirs anyway.
It's implied.
But it just does not, it did not seem that appropriate. So once we can make an amendment and to remove that item, and if that passes, then I can communicate that to Marissa at WASDA, and then the committee will take another look at that, and then in all likelihood, that was the only hang up on this particular one. So I would, actually, I think I will go ahead and make the motion. I would like to make a motion that we amend that item by striking the second item, or removing the second item and resubmitting it as that.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor of approving the amended WASDA proposal, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Jeffries, did I hear you vote?
Aye.
Okay. I mean, I could ask I was gonna ask if anyone's opposed, but you made the second, so I was assuming. All right, that motion passes. Thank you. And I believe that is all. Well, we did add the executive session on, so we will be dismissing.
I'd like to bring one thing up, just real quick, about upcoming meetings and things we might be attending. Like, I'm concerned about OPMA, Open Public Meetings Act. We're under a different set of laws. We're not considered the same private citizens the public is. And, attending, let's say, observing the, greet the principals, going to strategic planning, some other upcoming potential campaign events where no more than 3 of us can be in a public meeting at any given time without prior notification, and the meeting has to be public. So I just bring that up, that if how we might do that so that we know where we're gonna be. We just had a recent incident where we ended up with three board members the same place at the same time without notification, which is not good.
So what we will need to do is when we are going to an event that we recognize is of interest, we will have to survey you to see if you're interested in attending. And if you are, and there are 3 or more, then we'll be required to put out a notice of quorum. If we have an event and we don't have indication that multiple folks want to go, we will make sure that if it's something that's posted and we think you could show up by chance, we can check with you. Tracy's great with that. If you know you're going to attend something or have an interest, please just let us know so that we can keep track. We also can advise when we have 2 already in attendance and just advise that we cannot go with 3 or more.
I'll also say, if there's a calendar invites of events, I can say that I may not have always been the best at clicking to, RSVP that I will be there, but I can see that there's a benefit in doing that. So I will try to be more diligent about doing that, because we want to make sure that there's, so that way, if there is going to be an issue where you have multiple people or more than 2 people there, and it's not an event necessarily that is open to the public, or not all events have to be open to the public, but it would otherwise not be covered, or would potentially be an OPMA violation, that we can address those accordingly. So, and I think kind of coordinating, through, I'd say, Tracy as much as possible. Like, even if you think there might be a chance, kind of send her a heads up, and that way, there's a one point person that sort of knows what's going on. So
yeah, and checking with WSSDA, they pretty much has to be a public event, and there has to be notification.
I'm at the farmer's market almost every Saturday morning, just FYI. But
and there's got to be some kind of adjustment. If you show up at farmer's market or a baseball game, or you go to a lavender festival event and there's 3 of us there. Those are incidental times. It just so that we don't 3 or more of us don't cluster in the corner and start
Making decisions.
Yeah.
We can't, it becomes an illegal meeting real fast if we're not careful.
Yep. I think we can also talk more about it when we have it more as a specific agenda item too. We can always kind of clarify and take a look at the policy too, and, or not the policy, but take a look at the actual OPMA too. So, okay. With that, we are gonna recess into executive session to review the performance of a public employee. I believe we have initially 30 minutes set aside. So.